Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the People's Choice Podcast. And this is your first time tuning in. Welcome to the People's Choice Podcast. I truly appreciate you taking the time out your day to watch or listen to this podcast. And boy, do I have a great guest for you. Man, this man right here has over 10 plus years in the game as far as the music industry. This guy has been working with some of the greatest musicians that we know of and some really popular ones as well. He's also done some work for Disney, Telemundo. I mean, we go on and made some amazing work at a project like Bugatti and you
Hey,
see
man, no, you're killing it. You're killing it.
LF3. Man, how you
Thank you,
doing, brother?
man. Yo, it's great to be here, man. I was looking forward to this, man. But
Thank you.
yeah, checked you out, man. You got some really nice interviews, and I'm super honored to be here with you on the podcast.
And thank you, brother. The honor is all mine, man. I mean, for real. Like, I studied your work and it's just mind blowing, like the places you've been and the challenges that you're still to this day even put into yourself, man. It's really awesome. So we're gonna have a good time and just unwind all this. And I like to start from the beginning. So let's start from you growing up in Luxor, Arkansas. So what's your greatest memories there and one of your favorite things or places to do out there?
Wow, Luxor, Arkansas. Yeah, so Luxor, Arkansas is a small town of about I think a total of 1,800 people, and I think that also includes cats and dogs as well. Um, it's a very small place where everybody kind of knows each other, and I grew up there where I started on music, working with people in the neighborhood, and I would do some production and help people write lyrics, and then I did a lot of engineering. And as time went on, I didn't actually graduate high school. I ended up dropping out and getting my GED. And one of the turning points for me is the GED teacher looked at me and she was like, "Tell me who the five people closest to you are, and I'll tell you the kind of person you'll be." And at the time in my life, some of the influences could have been a little better. I wasn't putting myself in the best position, and that kind of really rocked me, and it made me kind of do like a 180. I started going back, got my GED, and I was really proud of that. And then I went to talk to my uncle, telling him I got the GED. And he's like, "Oh, that's great that you got the GED." He's like, "But what's your plans now?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna be an accountant." And the look on his face was just complete shock because he knew what I had been doing all these years. And he's like, "Are you doing it for the paycheck, or are you doing it because it's something you really love? Because if you work doing something you love, then you technically never have a day of work."
Yep, so true.
And that's what led me on the path to start going and explore engineering, which led me to a couple pretty cool opportunities in my career along that path. And I ended up doing some interning. I ended up going to school actually in Full Sail, actually out in Orlando, Florida.
Shout out
I
to
went
Full
for
Sail.
Yeah, shout out to Full Sail. Um, and then I interned at a couple places until eventually I was picked up by my mentor at the time, Jeff Villanueva, who brought me in to work at We the Best, where I ended up doing that for a few years and got some amazing chances to work with some of the best artists. Ended up getting a chance. One of my biggest credits that I landed during that time was Bugatti
Yeah,
with
man.
Ace Hood
And
and
Future, yeah.
Future and
Well,
Rick Ross and
I
Yeah.
love that song, honestly, man. Like that's one. It was one of my favorite songs, and that's why it's just such an honor to actually get to talk and get to know like one of the key people behind making this, and like wow, because I woke up in that new Bugatti, what I'm saying? Like that was like the hype song. I was like when that song dropped, I was still playing football, and I honestly, if that wasn't number one, it had to be like number two of like always all the like songs we always play to hype the team up. Like we just start getting the dances and shit, man. Like, it was crazy.
Oh my goodness.
Great times.
It was amazing. I remember that was like for me at the beginning of my career, like I was like studio furniture. Like I was literally the guy who was there 80 to 100 hours a week. Like I was the first one there and the last one out. And I remember the that particular situation with Bugatti. The way it turned out is my mentor wasn't in town. Khaled's engineer wasn't in town, and Ace Hood's own engineer wasn't in town. And Future showed up, and he only had 30 minutes. Which, of course, they could have called another engineer, but in 30 minutes, who's going to show up fast enough? And they
Yeah.
just had me there, and they got the mic going, sat there, and we put down what became the course to Bugatti in like 20 minutes. Like I remember as quick as it happened, it's just like so fast. And I remember thinking at the release, I mean, just before the release, when it was created, nobody really thought it was going to be what it was. And I think a lot of times with music is you don't know where it's going to find its home. You don't know where it's going to go. You don't know where the crowd is, how people receive it. And for us, you got to kind of look at the perspective of something we just threw together in 20 minutes. It's hard to think in that moment, those 20 minutes pass and it's like, yeah, this is gold. But sometimes you can catch like I don't know the saying. I guess like
Catch lightning in the bottle,
I
man.
was about to say lightning in a bottle. That's what I was about to say.
Yeah,
Lightning in a
man.
bottle, and that was the particular moment in time where yeah, I caught lightning in a bottle. And honestly, almost every opportunity I've had in my career has led to a situation like that where I was just the right place, right time, doing the right thing with the right people. Um, and yeah, so that's how a lot of that got started for me in the engineering.
Mhm.
And now currently I do music as production. I still do engineering, but now I've been working more on the production side. I got a nice group of artists that I work with. Um, Shout out to Del Siobhan, Noelle Sings, Lee Maddock, Mark Made, amazing artists that I work with on a daily basis, and I'm really blessed to have them blessing my beats because they do some crazy things sometimes. So as producing, back about 2 years ago, um, well, I'll go back to the birth of my daughter. The birth of my daughter, I kind of slowed down and tried to look more for like a 9 to 5 kind of thing in my career, and that's where a lot of my work with Disney came, more corporate events and stuff like that. And I remember that when the pandemic happened, corporate events weren't happening during the pandemic.
Yep.
But I discovered that you can make beats on your phone. And I always used to make beats, but the fact that it was so easy. And during the pandemic, I started making beats on my phone again and again. I was like, oh, 12 of I got about 12 of them here. That's pretty good. So what am I going to do with them? And then I just kept making more. And eventually I started releasing them. I think it was around April of 2001 was whenever I began just releasing to social media. No name, no explanation. It was just a number and a small visual of a beat being played. That was all you got. And
Isn't that amazing how time has changed where like, like we could, do that and post it, but now it's like with algorithms and everything, it's like, man, like you gotta have like keywords and all this other stuff where it's
oh
like
my
for your
goodness.
stuff to, post at a certain time. It's crazy how algorithms have affected the game.
Oh, so much, so much. There's just man, there's so much to learn with all this new technology now. I know TikTok's a whole other platform nowadays that you have to get on, and that's another part of your media, which I'm trying to get more comfortable into that platform. But
Mm-hmm.
when I did that streak, I started back in April, and I think Now I'm reaching like week 113 this Saturday.
Awesome, man. Congrats on that. Let me get you a round of applause.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
That is so like let's talk a little more about that. Like when inspired you to start that streak? Was it strictly just the pandemic, or was it just like, I want to do something that's never been done? Because like I really don't know anyone that's like any producers, and I've talked to many. I don't know if any of them's ever done what you're doing, like making a new instrumental, making a new beat every week. Like that's so challenging, demanding, but it also like shows like, man, how much of a go-getter you are, to like continue to keep that going.
Thank you, man. Thank you. No, it is very challenging. I think what started it is just the fact that I was just creating at such a high volume and I didn't know what to do with it. And it just seemed silly to just let it sit around. And I figured why just not let my people know if anybody. And just as it went further, it was just crazy. Like I remember at first I was getting probably like 15 views on in a month. Like nobody was paying attention. It was just going out. But I just kept going, kept going. By the time I broke 50, people started to pay a little more attention to what I was doing. It became a lot more watched for at that point.
Mm.
And as I went through and did it more and more, I actually started to create albums out of some of that material because I wanted to have something that was released. I didn't want to have it just straight to social media and be done type thing.
Mm.
So yeah, that's when I started going to albums, and one thing led to another. I started working with great musicians. A couple of my albums were kind of like the journey of just my personal growth of getting back to the music. A lot of them have just been examples of that. I've had the Flower Ceremony and an album called Week 104 that celebrated the 2 year mark of releasing the music. And most of those have just been just allowing me just to be myself from every last bit. I think that's the best thing that's come along from all this is, you get in the entertainment industry and you try to think what's the best way to represent yourself. And a lot of times it's just being yourself.
Oh man, that's so powerful. Like this always, I swear, like it's always the little things that where it's like you just say it, but it's like that's so powerful because like so many times we see like, especially on social media, too many guys and girls are sounding alike, and a lot of them are trying to be something that they're not. But it's like, man, when you just be yourself, like who could be you better than you? I think I heard Snoop Dogg say that once. And like when you're in your own element and you're really doing something that you're passionate about and love and don't mind putting in 60 hours, 80 hours, however many hours it takes to get what you want to achieve and accomplish, like it's a real beautiful thing. So
Absolutely.
man, so powerful. You said that.
No, and that's been the route that I've taken is, even down to the name that I chose when I went with LF3.
Yeah, that was on my next question, actually. Yeah, like where the name LF3 came from.
So yeah, LF3 actually, that's my initials. I'm the third generation, Luis Fernandez the third, and so I decided to just go with LF3. And what I like to say is kind of just to harp on what I just previously said is, I didn't know any better person to play other than myself. So then I'd rather just be LF3, which is myself. And the funny thing about it though is my handle on most social media is real.lf3. And a lot of times people look at it and visually they put an I in there and they always say real life.
That's actually pretty cool though, like real life.
That's exactly what I'm going for. So like when that's like a mistake, I don't even feel like correcting sometimes. It's just it's great that it happened like that.
Mm-hmm. That's a pretty cool name too. Like I'm thinking like back in the day when like that was a staple. Like let's say like DJs had to have cool names and stuff. Like DJ real life. You know what I'm saying? Like trying to think of something like that. Like I've been. Oh man, that's dope. I might take that one day. Unless there's somebody already out there. Like I don't want to copyright or trademark.
There you go, bro. No, I've seen it a couple times. What is it? Chris Paul. I think he's a third generation. They call him CP3, right?
Yep, CP3. Yep, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of great. A lot actually. Like number three is very lucky. Oh, go ahead.
What would yours be?
Mine's would be well, it's funny because like since I play sports and I always had like these numbers that meant something, but
Okay.
but I am the second though, so mine's would be
Okay.
AP2, so AP2,
Ooh,
that's actually pretty dope.
man. That's actually pretty nice. I'm not
That's
gonna lie.
an
When's your album
AP.
coming out?
Oh man, September. No.
There we go. There we go.
Hey,
Co-produce. I'm
honestly,
ready. Let's do it.
I was gonna say if I do drop an album, I would need like your blessing like on it. Like,
Oh,
man, dude, like
absolutely.
you're super talented, man. Like for real. Like I know we talked, about Bugatti, which is such a big hit when that came out. And I want to ask, do you have any like cool or funny stories or behind the scenes stories in the process of making that, or any music that you have with musicians that you want to just think about and be like, man, like that was magic, or that was a funny time, or that was a great time.
Man. Oh my goodness. It's so funny. Like when these questions come up, it's always situational. Like usually there's always a time where something comes up, like, oh, I remember when this happened. But in this particular moment, I'm trying to think. One of the funny times for me in the studio is like I remember being in the studio with Ace. That guy, amazing guy, like stand-up guy, hardworking, but he is a very funny guy as well.
Mhm.
And I remember being in the studio with him sometimes. We would try to come up with the most ridiculous stories for each other to see which one of us will bust a laugh first. And we would just say some of the most craziest things. Like I can't even recall what was said, but just the fact that that was the premises to see who would crack first was just the most hilarious idea for me. But his trump card for me is it got to a point where he'd always be like, "Hey, how your mom doing?" I was like, "All right, game over, man." Like, all right, you got me. And I remember one time, when I was working out in Miami, I didn't take a lot of pictures with a lot of the people I worked with. You're kind of in the moment, and as a professional, you want to kind of respect people's place and kind of show that there's a time and place for things like that.
Mm.
So when my mom came, though, it was a completely different story. Mom wasn't going to come through without taking pictures of everybody she introduced herself to. And while taking the pictures, I remember Ace was in the middle of a session and she was like, "Oh, is Ace here?" And I went in to go ask. And when I told him that my mom was here, just off of the times that we joked in the past, he's like, "Oh yeah, I can't wait." He's like, "I've been waiting for this." And I'm like, "Yo, man, calm down, man." And ever since that day, he would always mess with me. He's like, "Hey, how your mom doing? Tell her I said what's up." And I'm like, "Yo."
Man, shout out
But
to Ace Hood, man.
absolutely,
He
man.
is
Very
awesome.
playful dude. Like he's super cool, down to earth. Like the guy I joke about, like the pranks, all kinds of stuff. Like super fun person to be around. And that was one of the funny things of interacting with him and being in some of those sessions is just some of those little things like you can't really make up a story of like who laughs first, who says the most crazy things. And sometimes in the studio, you're in there locked in with people like 8, 10 hours in a day, and you got to find ways to break up that constant workflow. And he's really good at that. Like
Mm.
he has a way of making the sessions fun, making them a vibe. It's always a different atmosphere when he was in the session. Like great artist, very talented.
Awesome, man. And shout out to him for always making great music. I actually check out his fitness journey too. Like, I mean, he's bulked up like tremendously, man.
Man, yes, he
He's
has.
he's a good dude, man. Good dude. I could tell. I never met him, but I could tell just from like how he puts his videos and of course his music out there. Good dude.
Everything from the workouts to the work ethic, like that guy keeps all stages at the same level.
So, so I wanted to ask you the fact that there is no number one hip hop song or album in this year so far. And we're like halfway, more than halfway done with the year.
That's amazing.
What's your thoughts on that? Especially, because you're in that field, you're constantly creating and you've worked with some amazing, talented peers and great music. Like, what's your thoughts on that?
I think there's gonna be a change coming soon to the industry of some like I feel like we're the industry is always changing. It always has. But the one thing is the big machines are one of the least people that want to change. Like when it came from going from CDs to streaming platforms, you know how hard it was to move to those. But now look at where we're at. And I think where we're even shifting towards now is the fact that so much information is consumed on social media. like the key for a lot of artists to monetize is on social media, but there's not awards for people having the most views and clicks on social media for their song right now. So maybe if I don't know, it's kind of hard to think of what the criteria is. Like, there's no way that all bad music was made in the hip hop sector for this year. There's no way that that's because we've all heard great records throughout the year, great things here and there. Um, but it's just wild to see. I just think the way we're consuming music is differently. I think that's the only thing that indicates hip hop is still as popular as it's always been. Let's
Yeah.
not confuse that.
Oh,
It's not to
yeah.
say like, oh, hip hop's not going to be it anymore soon, guys. Like, no, that's not it. It's
No.
just where people are consuming hip hop is not where they're recording these numbers from, I think.
Mm, and
So,
that's so true. I was gonna say like on TikTok. I mean, it seems like every week there's a new trending song or out there, but then it's like that's why like the news was shocking to me to find out there hasn't been like I mean there's been plenty of artists like I'm trying to think off my head like Corey Ray like Ice Spice plenty of others that get millions of views on these videos and they throw like a snippet. And I know those are just there's just names that threw out there because I think they're on the headline for TikTok. They call them like TikTok
you
artists
know,
or TikTok royalty.
we're talking about like actually I was looking through on TikTok recently about there was a resurgence of Bugatti surface not long ago, a few months
Mhm.
back, and everybody was making videos on TikTok of them driving the most ridiculous thing. Like people were in like cardboard boxes and they had Bugatti playing. It's like, that was the funniest trend ever. And I went down that rabbit hole for hours just watching all the people doing with the Bugatti record, like what people said they were in. It's just the funniest. Like definitely got to check it out. It's
I
hilarious.
I gotta check it out. Let's see if I can put some of that in this video. That would be freaking hilarious. But it's crazy though how people are consuming music nowadays, like where it was before. Like you go get the CD, or even when you download the MP3 of it. Now it's like streams. But I think I seen Snoop even talk about where he was confused on like how are artists getting like paid for that streams. If he was like, because if I had like a million streams, shouldn't I get like at least $1 million? Or like he was, kind of joking about it. But it's amazing how streams and how things are calculated now, or how like the measuring stick of like what's considered number one hit and what's not. Because you go on TikTok, there's millions of kids jamming to something hip hop related, but then it's like you look at the charts and it's like, oh shit, like do
Yeah,
you
where's it going there?
yeah, like do you think like how long you think this drought will of hip hop like will be in?
I still don't even know if it's there. I just think the recording data to verify that it's still as dominant as it always is just, because like, are those numbers still calculated based on what people are paying for or what people are casually listening to? And I don't know how the weighting of that works versus, well, I do know a little bit about it. It's just different the way that it's consumed. I'm wondering if like the reason why these numbers are skewed is they're being consumed in different ways. I have a feeling that that has a large portion to do with it because a lot of times nowadays in music, it's like it's not even like where's the best place to deliver your music, but where's the first place you can get it to people, like the quickest way you can get it to them. And that's why I feel like the shift has fallen on social media is like what quicker way can you reach somebody than the person who just grabbed their phone with like foggy eyes in the morning and then they're shifting, like that's a lot of us are guilty of that same thing. That's where we've, oh my God. And if we get the crazy thing is if we get in a crazy enough bit of information or news in that morning hour, we'll spring right out of bed. I know I will. Like if I find something across my feed or an email or something I've been waiting, I'm like, okay, I got to get up now. It doesn't matter the time. If it comes through and it's important, I'm like, okay, let's go.
That's so true. See, mine is normally when the direct deposit hits. I just wake up. Oh shit! Let's go.
Man, I had to go back to like I remember going through cassettes, like my mother's cassette collection, like before I ever started making music. And looking back now, it's like, man, mom had some really good music selection in there. I remember in that cassette collection she had was Bad Company, Meatloaf, Keith Sweat, and Warren G. and I think Biggie was in there too. And a lot of those growing up listening to those, and as you could like, all those are very different influences.
Yeah.
But I remember out of the collection, those are the ones like I would always put those in. I enjoyed those cassettes. There was just so many different, and so a lot of my inspiration in music came from just going through mom's collection. And I remember that all led me to eventually buying my first album, which I'll never forget to this day. Like I bought the Fugees album, was my very first album. And I think
Classic.
upon buying those albums and having these pieces of music in my collection, like it started a bug. Like that was the love for music from that point on. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And that for me, that's what did it. You know, I became a fan first before I started working in it.
So yeah, it's definitely. I actually think that's the best way before you like kind of jump into like almost anything is like become a fan, become obsessed with it, and then just like ride that moments. Because that's kind of how I did with podcasting.
You have to enjoy the process.
Yeah, like I mean, you don't like you. Of course, you want to take it serious, but you got to remember, like, you only got one life, man. You got to enjoy it, and the fact that you got to also applaud yourself. That how many people that you know personally that could say, "I'm doing what I love to do." There's not many, man. And I tell people all the time, man, like, please chase after your goals or your dreams. Like, even if you don't conquer it, like, there's no shame in like trying, you know what I'm saying? Because like you might actually meet some great people or actually might discover a hidden passion that you might have even in the pursuit of that. So I always try to tell like my peeps when I do my other side, like podcasts and stuff, like try to spit some knowledge and advice, like I've been around the world or something, but still that's like, I felt that in my heart, like, man, you only got one life, man, just go for it.
It's the crazy thing about passion though. A lot of times is like the amount of stuff you'll put up with for something you love is so crazy sometimes. And I think that's why going to work for something you're passionate about like is so closely correlated with success, because like that's something you need in your life. Like I think I was hearing an interview with Dr. Dre where they asked him like if you weren't producing, what would you be doing? And he's like, man, if I was a plumber, I'd still be making music. So like that just goes to show it's like, and I think of the same for myself. Like even if I was doing any other job, if I was a janitor at a high school, I'd still be making this music. I'd still be dropping it out weekly. That's just like, I don't see myself stopping that. Like it feels so good, even to me personally. And it doesn't even matter if people are enjoying it outside. I want them to enjoy it. But what's more important is that I enjoy what I'm putting out there. And I feel like it's a good representation. And I think that's what you need to focus on. You need to not focus on the trends and what everybody else is doing. Make music that you agree with, get it out there. You never know who your fans are going to be. You never know who's going to love it. You never know if it's going to be the next hit record. You don't know any of that.
That's so
you
true.
Don't know any of it. Yeah, 100%.
That's so true. I remember this is some great advice. A good friend of mine told me one time. I had this crush on this girl back in like high school, and he was like, "Alvin, shoot your shot." And I was like, I don't really know. I was giving myself kind of like, why would she? I mean, she was one of the hottest girls in school. I mean, she could have any guy she basically wanted. I was like, why would she? You know what I'm saying? Like, not try to downplay myself, but I was like, there's other people who got like, 6-pack abs and nice cars already in high school and all this other stuff. But he's like, hey, look, man, if you don't take or shoot your shot, you're the biggest loser in the world because you didn't even try. And I was like, damn. And ever since he said that, like, I've kind of approached life like that. And I'm like, you know what? What's the worst they're going to say is no? Like, oh, no. Okay, whatever. Like, so I started taking that and use that for my career field, for like different opportunities. Like, I always like, yeah, go ahead. What's the worst it's gonna say? Is no. You know what I'm saying? Like it's amazing how my brain operates and quotes and everything. And I'm a big quote guy. I mean, I got it tatted on me. I got stuff around. I used to have a big nice sign before it fell and it broke. So I gotta go replace
what's your favorite? I mean, that's one of mine up there. Yeah. What's your favorite quote? What's your favorite quote?
My favorite quote, man. I heard this and it just shook me. This was like back in 2011, maybe. And it was a quote. I don't know if Big Sean made this quote or if it just maybe he heard it before, but I heard from Big Sean. He was doing a freestyle, and he said, "I'm trying to make the greatest story never told and make it my own." And I was like,
I like that.
I said, "Damn, that was fire!" Like, or I'm trying to tell the greatest story, or I'm gonna tell the greatest story never told, make it on, something like that. But I was like, because your story is your life, experiences. Like, there's some things that you experience that others will never, in a million years, good and bad. And I want like my life story one day, whenever I decide to either make a book or heck, if everyone wants to just keep watching my podcast and see me grow, until, when it's all said and done, like I want to be able to like look back at my life and be like, I think I had one of the greatest life stories like ever, coming from like nothing and being poor and like, failing in school to then turn it all around and pursue my dreams and conquer my dreams and start new dreams and new things. Like that's the life I want to like remember, like, or at least when I'm on my deathbed, like, like I did it, like I have no regrets, stuff like that. So that's my favorite quote. Try and make the greatest story never told, make it my own. So what's your favorite quote? Is it, your basically your company, which we'll talk a little more about that, just be great?
Well, that's a part of it. But I mean, a direct quote. There was a time like when my daughter was being born where I went crazy with the reading and I got like really interested in some philosophy. I'm not a big philosopher or nothing, but there were things I read along the way that really like resonated with me. And one of them was something by Nietzsche, and he said, "A man with a why can bear almost anyhow."
That's powerful.
For me, like that was really insightful. It's almost like, and I feel like in my life it's been like that a lot of times. It's like I've always had a why and I never knew what the how was, but I figured it out. I just knew what the why was. I didn't know what the how was, but I figured it out piece by piece. Even to today, there's certain things that come up and it's like, man, I don't know how I figured that out again, but it all worked out. And you just got to trust the process. A lot of times we were just talking about earlier is about just enjoying the journey. And sometimes is the figuring out process,
That's so true, man.
That's where the real growth happens. So
that is so true. I think we learn more from the journey than we do from when we're at the top. We're at the point of our goals and stuff is the journey and and that's why I try to remind myself too, even starting off, podcasting, 2.5 years ago to where I'm at now and seeing the growth there. It's like looking back, I watched some old clips and I'm like, damn, Alvin, you came a long way. Like I always been posting like on my Instagram, like throwbacks and stuff. And I'm like, hey, you came a long way. Do you ever have those moments too? Like where you look back at some of like either maybe like, music you've made or maybe pictures or anything like that. And you're just like, man, wow, I came a long way, and getting those small victories and learning to celebrate them.
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%. There's a lot of times where I'll go back and reference things in the past. And it's weird. Like a lot of people ask, like, when did it happen? When did things change? But I go back and listen to stuff in the past and like, I don't even know how I was even able to make those mistakes or some of those things, like, because it's always so different. The decisions I make now versus what I make early in my engineering. So 100%, I definitely go back and just celebrate that progress, listen to that old stuff. Like I got stuff back from like, you're talking about when I first started in Arkansas. I still have all those records and they're not the best records, but I go back and just like, get a little humble pie real quick. Like, okay, remember them humble beginnings real quick, man. Get back to work.
Yep. My humble beginning is I keep the cell phone that I had, and it was my first time I recorded a podcast. It was another show that I had, and I mean, the cell phone don't work. I keep it in my junk drawer, and my like kitchen or something. But I look at it every now and then, like you recorded your first podcast on the cell phone. Sound like complete dog shit because like like I'm up close to the phone and I'm talking, you can hear like me breathing like and trying to catch my breath. I was going so fast, I was so nervous, but it's a symbol that I always keep where I'm like, man, remember where you came before you had the equipment and the light and all that stuff and a little bit following that you have, like you start here on your phone in your kitchen like on Podbean,
Man.
which Podbean isn't even that big of a thing anymore, but like just those are my like small victories that I or humble pie, I should say, or I go back like, ooh, yeah, Alvin, you've improved a lot.
You need that though. You need to kind of reference the past to appreciate your present sometimes.
100%.
It's always good to have little things to go back just to check like where am I at today.
Mm. And speaking of president, like you referenced a little earlier that you're on was 113 weeks straight, right?
113 weeks straight. Yeah, I've
Man.
been working on. I was actually trying to start week 112 was supposed to be the start of me going live on TikTok,
Mhm.
and I got banned for something. I guess there were comments that were supposed to be deleted, and we were in the middle of a jam session. Like I was making beats, I had my artist singing behind me,
Mhm.
so I do have to say I need some mods. So anybody who wants to come help me out, mod the feed on my TikTok, come check me out. But otherwise, yeah, I've been doing it for 113 weeks this week. I'm starting to do it live on TikTok. It's crazy how it happened because there was a certain time where I was putting out, I had everything pre-made weeks in advance. Like, oh yeah, we're good, we're good. And then it got to a point where I got so tired of that little bank that I had, and I started making them fresh weekly. And sometimes I was late. I'd be like, oh, it's Saturday. I got to release it today. And I had to take a few hours to whip something up real quick. And it's wild because like after 6 or 7 weeks of that consistently, I had like 1 week where there was 3 different events where somebody called me to make something like on the spot. And if it weren't for all that training that I'd done those previous 10 weeks, I call it training, but it was just like accidental train. It was like accidental training. So, but it worked out. And I feel like sometimes when you do something consistently, you can't help but get better at it.
Oh man, amen to that, man. Amen to that. That's so true. And I want to ask you on some current projects that you're currently working on with some artists. And you shouted out a few earlier. What can all your fans and my peeps expect and new audience from your current projects that you're working on?
So yeah, I've dropped instrumental albums in the past. I got 2 of them on all platforms. You could look me up LF3 on Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon Music, all social media platforms.
We'll
I
make sure
have
to put that
a
in description.
I got week 104 in the flower ceremony on previous albums. And what I got coming up is more instrumental music eventually. I think I'm slowly moving to stop releasing on the social media and maybe start releasing straight to platforms. But in the meantime, I do have a secret project coming up with vocals on it. Um, because I've been doing this long enough and I have these crazy talented artists around me that are literally picking up beats from the first 20 weeks and making gems out of them. So now it's time to show them all to everybody, like the crazy collaboration. And man, it's going to be an amazing showcase. I have a dream in the future one day as a producer to be able to perform my beats live on an MPC and then just bring out all the artists and then perform live while they're performing live. I feel like that'd be a crazy event.
Oh man, I could picture it now. I'm a very visual person. I can see you now just killing it, man. You just making your beats, and then the crowd just roaring, like almost like a like Rolling Loud Festival. I could see something like that, like oh man, like
And something could be I could make something in as little as 2 minutes sometimes. So like something new can be made on the spot. We just riff for like 10 minutes and just see what happens. Like
yeah, and
that'd be a show in itself.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That's what I really enjoyed about like you posting on social media was seeing the progress of you making, the beats and everything. Like I was watching a couple of your videos on TikTok before, all that happened, and I was like, wow, like you're going and actually showing the audience like how you're processing this and how you're making it, like everything, like the behind the scenes stuff that most people probably wouldn't even know or see. So I think that's pretty cool.
Mm, absolutely. No, and man, one of the things I do have to highlight though about this path that I'm on is like you really have to believe in yourself when you're going forward with some of these things that you do. When you know, it's one thing to work doing something you love, but it's another thing to do something you love and know that you deserve to be there. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
So a lot of times I used to have an issue with something called imposter syndrome,
Mm,
where I had done all these great things at a point in my career, but it was hard to believe that I deserved to be there, that I earned it.
mm,
And I did a lot of searching as time, and I just didn't start getting a handle on this. Now I remember I was talking to a therapist. I do therapy. I don't think anything's wrong with therapy. You know,
not at all. Congratulations
mental.
on that too.
Thank you, thank you. Mental strength is a great thing. We go to the gym for strength. You know, sometimes you can see a therapist for a little extra mental strength too.
100%.
So I remember I was trying to come to this imposter thing, and he asked me something crazy one day, and he's like, well, it's crazy to me, but it's so simple. He's like, do you celebrate your success? And I was like, yeah, I celebrate my success, of course, you know, whatever.
Did you give him that pause? Did you give him that long pause too? We're like,
Yeah,
I
and
celebrate my success.
and then that's when the follow up exactly. So the follow up question happened. He's like, well, what does it look like? And I was like, oh, you know, I go out, have some food, have a drink, you know, and thinking, listen back to that answer now, it's like, yeah, I go out and do basic survival stuff. That's how I celebrate my success.
For
You
real,
know?
like I go out, I breathe, I
Yeah,
eat,
I go
I
out.
drink.
But then like he questioned me on that, and he's like, the reason why I ask is celebrating your successes is one of the first ways of getting out of imposter syndrome. And I was like, whoa. So like along this journey of what I've been doing now is I really do celebrate my successes. I really do give myself the credit. If I'm dropping an album, I'm doing a release party. I don't care if it's instrumental. And the crazy thing, the more album releases I do, the crazier the attendance gets, and the more amazing the musicians are that are there. So I'm going to keep doing that because I want to show people that it is normal to celebrate your success. It's okay to be really good at what you do and then also appreciate yourself for it, you know? So in the journey of what I've been doing, it's a lot of just making sure I'm aware of what I'm capable of. And, you know, a lot of times people could take that one way or another, but we forget. And what we were saying earlier is about going back and checking those earlier projects. Sometimes we forget those things. We got to remember our progress, you know, and really validate the fact that we do deserve to be where we are. Because look at where we started.
That's so true. That's so. That reminds me of a conversation I had real early on in my podcast journey with Chapa Notch, amazing singer. I mean, she was a nominated vocalist, you know, on
Mm.
Tana Alexa's album. So shout out to her. And she said something similar to that, where she like would never like celebrate like any of her accomplishments at all. Just keep going, next one, next one, next one, next one. And she said it wasn't until like recently, at least to that point, me and her were talking, where she said she just started to really like sit back and you know, oh man, let me, you know, cheers, you know, for this, and oh, I just dropped this new music video, you know, and now she's starting to do it. And she was basically, just paraphrasing, but she's saying just how it's really have changed her life for the better, that
Mm.
she's doing that instead of just constantly just being on the grind and gotta go, you know. So I applaud you 100% for that, and thank you
Thank
too for opening up about therapy. I know that's a it's a big topic for a lot of men, that you know, some are comfortable talking about it, some aren't, but I'm
Well,
one of them
you
that
know,
are. Oh, go.
I think it's interesting that there's always a negative association with the phrase mental health. You know what I'm
Mm,
saying? Like, and it's weird because like we go to the gym, right? We go to the gym and we train, but never do we say we're there for health training. You
mm,
know,
that's
we
100%.
say we're
Yeah.
there for strength training.
Yeah. Or
Why do we
weight
say,
loss. Yeah.
well, that's
Yeah.
still you're training for something of strength, you know what I'm
Yep.
saying?
Yep.
But like, why do we say when we go do things that better our mental state, why do we say it's we're working on our mental health, not our strength? It sounds like we're doing something pretty strong to me.
Mm-hmm. And that's powerful right there. I'm gonna start saying that, you know, more often, like working on my mental strength instead of just,
Yeah.
you know, mental. I actually just posted on my
Yeah.
Instagram about mental health. One of the throwback clips that I posted Thursday with Jeremiah Weaver. That was such a good episode because he went through it, man, in life, and the way to see him like turn it all around and things he's doing now. I mean, it's amazing. But yeah, he was like hospitalized, how bad his depression was getting, and mental, and now seeing where he's at now, it's just amazing. He's inspiring so many people. So it's so cool. And that's a message to all my peeps that you can beat what you're going through. Well, I'll say beat because like he and him talk, like you didn't beat anything or didn't win really, but you learn how to, deal with it and cope with it and also heal from it and stop the ending cycle. It's like me and him talking, like it was like a cycle. He'll be all right for a while, then boom, then you're all right for a while, then boom, And and I even as myself, I struggle with mental health my whole life, So, and I think it was really until like maybe 3 or 4 years ago, 3 years maybe, where I really started like trying to do more mental healing and being more open to things like a therapy. Like, I mean, I've talked with my sister plenty of times and she's really into like chakras and energies and stuff like, so like it takes that step to be like the acceptance step, I say, to be like, all right, maybe I don't know, or I can't handle all of this. Maybe, what I'm saying? Like, I need to hold myself accountable if I really love, like, my people, that my life and everything, that I need to help myself. I need to become better, because mental health is so real. It's taken so many men. I mean, the suicide rate for men is just, oh man, it's heartbreaking, just extremely heartbreaking. And I had to get to the point in my life where I was like, I don't want to be like that, because I've been down that road and it's not a good road. So yeah, see, I just turned this whole podcast into mental, So it's like,
no, it's true, man. No, a lot of creatives and people in the positions that we are, like, I know they see us front and center, whether we're doing our podcast or our music, and it's all out there. But there's steps that get to the point. I don't want to make it seem like it's impossible to get there, because I feel like sometimes people give that same speech and it makes the goal seem impossible to reach.
Yeah.
But the steps are simple. Like, look at, sometimes when you just like really analyze what the problem is, you find out what the solution is, and it's not really that bad. Like, for example, the imposter syndrome, celebrating your successes, something so small. Like, the more you ramp up your self-love and appreciate what you're capable of, a lot of those other little things that you deal with in the mind, you start to really see what they actually are, and you realize your self-worth at the end of the day.
100%. And another thing, like, to piggyback off that, is sometimes you find like the root of like why you feel this way, like when you really start opening up and peeling, like I said, peeling the layers, peeling the layers and peeling it, and you figure out like why. Not all the time, not for everyone, but at least I did, where it was like why. And sometimes it goes back to childhood, things you were instilling in you, or sometimes it may even be beyond that. Like I've talked to one guy, he was like generations like of men's mental health. And like, I mean, I remember he was saying like his grandfather, and his father all committed suicide by the time, but by the time they were like 36, somewhere around their 30s, and he was like approaching 33. So he was like kind of just, like worried, like, why is that? And he started going to therapy and he started really looking to it. And, come to find out, like, there's like a medical condition behind like his family that goes back in generation that no one's ever treated, no one ever known, because, men talking about their mental health was never really a big thing. I mean, it's still, even to this day, it's still kind of, not, it's embraced more now, but it's still kind of, for some men, like it's hard to even discuss or even know where to go, to get some help. So I mean, I'm glad I actually talk about that. I know we didn't expect that, but wow,
absolutely, yeah,
like, yeah, that's powerful, man. It's powerful.
That mental strength, man. It's crazy. Like, a lot, like there's a lot of things that we're not really aware of that we've dealt with early on in our lives, that caused the effect later on. I think kind of like, for me, it makes me kind of aware as a parent, like on the effects of the way I carry myself, and the things that my daughter witnesses out of me and how that affects her. I've become hyper aware of that. Actually, part of the reason why I'm in the music, is I started learning that, like, as much as like us as parents want to see our kids happy, the kids 9 times out of 10, actually 10 times out of 10, want to see their parents happy as well. It's the 100%. Same exact thing. So like, a part of what I try to do with my daughter or any kind of youth that I come in contact with is show them like, you can do this. You are capable of making that happen. Um, you just got to put in the work at the end of the day. But that's anything that you got to put in the work. You're going to get a job at McDonald's and there's a bunch of small things you're going to have to do before you even complete your job to clock out at the end of the day. Do you want to do those tasks or do you want to do the small tasks that lead to the other thing you love to do? They all have small tasks to get to the point. And the thing is like, and just I'm just bringing up the idea about McDonald's, for example, like a person who never comes in and they're working for the first time, they're not going to know the gear in the restaurant and how to work everything until they get in there and take the job. So like as far as like music and going for music, you're not going to know like what little services you need to do and what things you need to get yourself tightened up with until you just get in there. Like you have to make that mistake first
Oh
sometimes.
man, that speaks volume to just even my journey as a podcaster. Because like and podcasting was still kind of new when, well, not kind of, but sort of new when I really wanted to jump into it. And this was like 2014, 15, and it took me getting out my own way finally all the way until 2020 when I really like started this journey. And it's just like, man, why did I do that? But you have to go through that, like, and like when I started, like I talked earlier, I started with a phone, and
Right.
we all start somewhere, and it's just I could talk about that all in all, like
No
just the
doubt.
importance of just trying, and going after your goals, and it's okay to mess up. Hell, I could look back at this, 20 years from now and probably find every little mistake possible, but just
Oh
gotta keep it
man.
going.
I
So,
have my own stories as well. But the crazy thing about some of those mistakes is like you only make them once.
mm-hmm,
Those mistakes that I'm talking about that you need to make, those are the ones that you only make once. And
mm-hmm.
then you learn a very valuable lesson at that point.
100%. Either in a good way or a bad way. You're gonna learn that lesson.
No doubt, no doubt.
So I want to
Now,
ask you about your company, Just Be Great. And like I see you even got the shirt there. That's awesome, man.
oh yeah, just be
So
great. Oh
yeah, let's
man.
let's talk about that. Like what was the origin of it, when you decided you wanted to start it, and what's the overall message you want your brand to represent?
Man, just be great. The brand actually started. I remember whenever I built this room that I'm sitting in now.
Mm-hmm.
Just be great is my brand. It's turned into something completely different now. Currently, it started off as this location, which is in my house actually, and I added this neon that you see behind me,
Mm-hmm.
because I wanted a very encouraging. Uh, I wanted something encouraging to look at when I moved away from my computer. When I turned around, what did I want to see? So if I'm sitting there working on my computer, I'm exhausted, I'm just grinding, I'm just like, I turned around and then there's just that bright, just be great flashing right in my face. And flash forward to today, I now have a second location. I have a studio with my partner at Indie Jams Radio. Shout out to Indie Jams for always helping me out and keeping me straight with everything. Like going into this business, they've really made it all doable, and I couldn't thank them enough for some of the small things they've done early on.
Big shout
But
out to you.
just absolutely shout out to Indie Jams. At this point now, just be great. Started with that sign, and I remember uh, when I created it, I wanted to do something that just felt great. I wanted people to just be the best version of themselves. I
Mm-hmm.
don't want them to be any form of competition or try to beat anybody else. I want them to just go out and be great. Like I feel like that's an easy task for people to do. And it's a great thing when you see it and it's like, man, yeah, I'll go do that. So I remember it was actually on September 21st was the night of the time I created Just Be Great, the business. And I thought it was funny because it went with a lyric from one of my favorite songs from Earth, Wind, and Fire from the song September. And I feel like Just Be Great kind of encapsulates that whole quote there. The lyrics that just came with it, but it said, do you remember the 21st night of September, the night I created Just Be Great?
Wow.
And it says, love was changing the minds of pretenders while chasing the clouds away. And I remember thinking the correlation with that and Just Be Great going into the future and what I want Just Be Great to be built on.
Mm.
is I really want it to be a brand of love and just let people be the best version of themselves. Because at this current moment, I am the I guess spokesperson, the face of Just Be Great. And those are all things I'm currently aspiring to do for myself at the moment, is to just be great, you know, share love. Love is an amazing, amazing emotion.
Yes.
And when you share it with individuals, and it's a very needed and very necessary interaction. I will say that.
Really is. And congratulations too on for one starting and also just seeing where you're at now. Like saying you got in your house, you got another location. Like that is so cool. What are some goals that you have for Just Be Great? Like by the end of this year, I guess since we're already halfway through it, what's some goals that you have for it?
So my goal as a producer, I love my production, doing my production. That's where my focus is mainly. But by having a studio, I want to make it a place where new engineers can come and learn and give them a space that they could use. Like if you're a upcoming engineer and you're interning with Just Be Great and you have clients, but you don't have a place to bring them, you could book them at the studio, use the gear we have, and start getting paid in that same moment. And I'm going to try to be there to coach you through it too. Because honestly, I feel like as you go up in anything in life, you never lose responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
You just continuously gain more. The only thing that changes is you're able to give people that information and allow other people to do those things. So where I'm currently going as an engineer going in heavier to production, I'm trying to find the next person I could teach to do the engineering, to take all the lessons I have, all these things. And the crazy thing about it is like I could take that information and share it with anybody, but it doesn't guarantee that they're going to be 100% the full package, because a lot of times what I say in this industry is what we do on a daily basis, 5% of it's technical. And as an engineer, podcaster, all different things have this other percentage is a different set. For me, I would say it's my ears is 15% of my job,
Mm-hmm.
but a massive 80% of my job has to do with how well I get along with people. So as future engineers, people coming up in the industry as a producer, whatever, the key to anything you do is just being personable, being that person that people can relate to, that people can talk to, confide into, that they enjoy being around overall. Because if nobody, it doesn't matter how talented you are, if nobody likes you, nobody's going to want to work with you.
100%. 100%.
100%, man.
Man.
So.
And you dropping some gems today, man. For real, like, man, it's so cool, man.
I
For
was looking
real.
forward to it, man. You got me going. You asking great questions, and you got me really thinking about. I mean, it's a great conversation. I've been looking forward to this.
Me too,
So
man. Thank you again so much for being on People's Choice podcast. Of course, you got support from me, all my peeps for basically for life, man. Because like I said, once you're part of the family, you're in. You know what I'm saying? I just got a few more questions. These are like
Okay.
my staple questions, and then we'll wrap up here. So one of them I like to ask is like hidden talents, because like we see our talent on full space, especially in your line of work,
Mm.
and it's so important. But sometimes people don't know, like what else that you may have in your your bag of tricks, or something else that you may also be passionate about. So I want to ask, do you have any hidden talents that you don't mind sharing with me and all my peeps?
To not go music related, something that's not music related is what I want to answer on.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just till recently, a few years back, is I actually developed a bit of a green thumb.
Mm.
And I love plants now. Like plants are, it's interesting to see something go from seed to full plant to flowering or fruiting and all these kinds of things. Like a lot of times with plants, it just takes patience and a little bit of attention, and that's how you'll bear fruit and flowers. And I think in music and a lot of other things in life, like you kind of see the relationship that plants have with that. And whenever I found out the process and tried it a few times, like I just became just mesmerized by the whole process and how adaptable they are and how much we relate in the same way. Humans are very adaptable. So I
Mm-hmm.
love the relationship we have with plants, and that's my little hidden talent. Is I got a little green thumb, man. I can grow all kinds of
Got the
stuff.
green thumbs. All right. What's your favorite thing that you have planted so far?
So I got these plants called desert rose,
Mm.
and they're desert plants. And actually, man, they like to be dry. So like watering them, you really don't have to dry them much. Like the maintenance is insanely low, but the amount of flowers, if you keep them happy, like I got a couple of them that are just beautiful. Like that's one of my favorite plants. I also have jasmine that I love. I have a couple of jasmine that actually I bought that died. They were dying when I bought them. And if you saw them now, you'd be like, there's no way that thing was ever dying at any point in life. But no, like you pick them up. A lot of the plants I have that I've planted around my house are all plants that were once in bad shape. And I just
Mm.
doctored them up and put them out in the yard.
And that is awesome. I wish I would have known you like 6 years ago because I tried to plant this jade plant and yeah, it just not work because my mom has like a green thumb and she's big into plants and my grandmother was, my rest her soul, and it just skipped me. Like I think it went to my sister, but like, and it was just but that's so cool, man. And yeah, I just learned something new too because when you said that, I'm like thinking like, man, like what kind of plant? Like the desert's always hot, I am. That's what I
Yeah.
was originally thinking. And when you're telling me how they're low maintenance and how they grow, I'm like, wow. See, I didn't even know that.
And they could even tolerate cold temperatures to a certain degree because the desert isn't hot 24 hours. Once it gets night, the desert gets actually kind of cold.
Uh, See,
So
I gotta travel more, man. I'm in North Carolina. We don't got too much desert, at least that I know of. I mean, I haven't
we don't in Florida either. It's just one of like I know of the space and whatnot. So like
Gotcha.
knowing about the flower and the stuff it's capable of, being that it's from those conditions, you just kind of put two and two together.
Definitely, definitely. That's awesome. And another one, like I know we talked a little about I'm gonna plug your socials in, but where can all my peeps and new audience find you on social media? And I'll make sure I send a video, not just social media, but also like to get your merch or any music or newsletter if you have. Where can all of them find it? And I'll make sure I put all the links in the description of the video.
So yeah, most of everything can be found on my social media. My Instagram is real dot LF3, real dot LF3. And I have my link tree in there with everything included that you would need to find. My Beat Store is on there. I'm on BeatStars, lf3.beatstars.com. Yeah, most of everything you can find on the socials. I'm on TikTok as well. Slightly different screen name, real REAL underscore LF3. So real underscore LF3 over there. And that's where you can find me on streaming platforms. I go by just simply LF3. You can find me on all platforms. And if you can't find me on there, hit me up and I'll see what's going on. We'll figure it out.
All right. That's awesome. And just my last question is gratitude based because like that always like I've mentioned that with every guest I have. Just that's what keeps me grounded. That's what keeps me going. Is just being thankful and grateful for people in my life or things I have that situations I was able to overcome and things. So I wanted to ask you though, like, what are three things that you're grateful for in your life currently? And if it's more than three, that's cool too. But I think three would be definitely perfect for LF3. Like that's so cool. See,
I
I told
like
you, man,
that. I like that.
you have the coolest name, man. I swear.
Thank you, bro. So I think I kind of got to put it into categories. You know, uh, I think family is definitely one of the things. My daughter, among all things in the family related, but my daughter's the top of that. But my mom's always holding me down, brothers being there for me. My daughter, obviously, family is a huge help and something I'm very grateful for. And aside from that, number two, I would have to say my music is something that I'm very grateful for to have back, in the way that I'm doing it now. Um, Never realized how important it was, and what I'm doing now is what I'm supposed to be doing all this time. So I'm grateful for that. And I think last, I got to be thankful, God for putting me in the position to be where I'm at now. I'm a little kid from Arkansas, and it's nothing short of a miracle to get to the point in life where I'm at right now. So,
Made a long way from Luxor.
yeah, last but not least, 100%, God for putting me here. I didn't see it all panning out the way it did, but he had a plan, and looks like I'm falling into it.
Amen to that, brother. Amen to that. LF3, thank you so much for being a part of the People's Choice podcast. And we touched on so much. I mean, we even threw in some great gems, man. This is definitely one of those episodes that I think many people can go back and listen to over and over again. And I appreciate you so much for everything you've done for me, brother. And any last like message you would love to give to all my peeps, or any people that you would love to shout out to before we wrap up?
Um, Stay hydrated and be great.
That is so true, man. That's so important. That is so important, for real. Make sure you're hydrated and be great. That's a great sign off right there. LF3, ladies and gentlemen.
I appreciate you, Doug. I appreciate it. Great interview. You did amazing. It was absolutely a pleasure. Thank you so much.
And thank you. Thank you for being a great guest and all the compliments, and much success, much great vibes and prayers and wishes for you, my brother.
Let's go.
Definitely, man. You have a great one, brother.
You too, man. Appreciate you.